Hello to everyone. So my name is Sanjay Monga and we are here to discuss the last exam of economics, GS paper 3 economics portion. You can see the weightage that moves between 100 to 125 in general. So in that sense, economy is a very important area for everybody who is preparing for this examination. And you can even do the analysis of your weightage of different topics, although it changes from time to time, but anyway, they keep a high focus on agriculture related topics. So biggest focus. And the second thing that they would love to ask in the examination is the concept of economic growth. Plenty of questions you will find on inclusive growth, economic development, human development index. So there's a constant focus on these areas. Occasionally they are moving into any domain and you have to prepare obviously everything. So let's discuss these questions one by one. The first question that I would like to take is why is PPP required in infrastructure projects? Examine the role of PPP model in the redevelopment of railway stations in India. So some material about PPP and railways is mentioned in the books, and I have some scan of that particular book and some areas. And in the current affairs materials that we provide to students in the form of magazines and other articles, PPP investment model is thoroughly explained, and it is connected to rail projects also in one of the areas. This was released on 1st May 2019 on the application that you have. So moving on, whenever you start answering any question, it is always advisable to follow certain principles. The first thing that I would like to tell you is that you must have a habit of marking the exact requirement of the question. Why is PPP required? So this is the first part of the question. Most of the students will start writing the PPP definition. So this would be the introduction line of many who will be writing the answer, but what I suggest you is to be very brief in the introduction part. In some question, lot of words are wasted, some 30, 40, even 50 words are wasted, and these questions are for 150 words only. So you have a rationing of words. So I don't recommend you to write long introduction. You avoid the long introductions, be very, very brief, and come to the point that they are asking you. In this, why is more important? So if you give some time to what is PPP, you will not get marks for this. This is the body of the answer which is going to give you marks. So keep introduction, and if you are writing some conclusion at the bottom, like most of the students have this practice of starting with an introduction and ending on a conclusion, my suggestion is to keep it very, very brief, very, very small. Don't over budget it. So if your answer has a very brief introduction and a very brief conclusion, you will have bigger scope for the body of the answer. So spend at least 80 to 90% time and resources on writing the body of the answer. So you can write the first line is PPP can be defined as a partnership between government agencies and private sector to provide a government service, facility or infrastructure. This is the basic definition of PPP. Probably all of you know that, because I'm assuming that all of you have passed the preliminary stage and you have written this examination. So you have basic knowledge about the fundamentals about PPP. What we are discussing is that what should be the right approach to answer writing. So content wise you are prepared, and some extra contents I can give you. Plus the presentation part makes a lot of sense, which requires a discussion right now. So moving on to the why do we need PPP? This is one part of the question. So do you think the whole answer is on this part, or you have some other element also? Because if you have another question within the same question, then you must take care of balance between the two. So the second part of the question, because these are two questions and answering in 150 words, in which you are spending some 30 to 40 words in introduction and conclusion, 120 words are left. So 60 words are very less number of words for explaining the reason behind PPP, and another 60 words you have to cover up the role of PPP in the redevelopment of railway stations. So here, what role PPP can play in developing railway stations? Two areas we have in the answer. So we must cover both the areas. So when you start answering, it's always important to follow certain basic rules of answer writing. Like the first rule that you must follow is that your answer should be complete in all respect. You must address everything that is asked in the question. So completeness is very, very important. Okay? So how would you make sure that you complete it? It would be done with planning. So plan before answer writing. You must mark, as I have demonstrated you must mark the key words in the question. You must plan what weightage you have to give to the first part of the question, what weightage you have to give to the second part of the question, and how you are going to begin. As I said, that minimum introduction and maximum body is the rule that we have to follow. And everything you write should be having a relevance with the question regarding size and regarding everything. So your answer should be only relevant to what is asked. See, these rules look very simple, but they are very, very powerful. And most students ignore these type of things. When they start answer writing, they just write in a flow. So I think planning is one important thing that you all can do. So let's move back to our question now. So half of the body, if this is my answer format, I have to allocate to why. Why PPP? Now it will be 40% of the 150 words, and then role in railway stations development. This all you have to do mentally, and that too within a minute. Don't take more than 1 minute in reading the question, marking the question, and planning about the topics. So this is how will you do. You will mark what you have to write, why PPP, and then how it can be helpful in developing railway stations in India. So I hope this is clear. Content wise, I have shown you that some content is already provided to students of our institute, and they can take some ideas from there. Now I can tell you some points from my side. First of all, government has limited capital, and infrastructure is highly needed in the developing countries like India. So the capital requirement, which is huge in the infrastructure sector, can be fulfilled only by private participation. And PPP is a model in which money comes from private sector, and the project is required for the people of the country, and mostly it is responsibility of the government. So the first reason why we need PPP is that the capital requirement is huge and government has very limited resources. If government increases taxes further, taxes are already high in countries like India, so then it would not be good for the common man. Second, why we need PPP is expertise. Private countries have a super specialization. For example, if you are talking about airports, you have a specific company called GMR, which has created a lot of world-class airports in India. So the expertise of private sector is another very important point which you must keep in mind. There is a problem of stalled projects in India. Stalled projects matlab the projects which could not be completed in the due time frame. So it increases the cost, it increases the wastage of resources in the economy. So this problem can be solved only by timely completion, and when you are giving responsibility to private sector, you must devise some way to audit all that thing so that it can be timely completed by the private sector. This is another reason why asking a private company for infrastructure like airport or railway station, you will have a quick disposal. And then we have the quality constraint. The projects which are created by the private sector generally are corruption free, and there is a responsibility fixation for the private sector. So you will find that in most cases the project will be completed with time bound approach, with the cost which is budgeted, and that too the quality standards that we have given them as per the requirements of the quality standard. So I can give you 4 best points in every questions, because I told you that we have to write 60 to 65 words maximum. So 4 sentences means almost 60 words. Am I clear? So I think these 4 points you can write why PPP is going to be better. Moving on to the second part, you can write that PPP can play a vital role in the development of railway stations because the railway does not specialize in the customer service which are apart from the railway activities. Like, let us talk about the meals. Railway is specializing in railway operations. So the basic focus of railway should be to have timely journey. The quality of journey, although depends on many other factors, like what kind of comfort we are giving to our passengers. We need a lot of waiting rooms. First of all, when you reach a railway station and you have a time like 30 minutes to 60 minutes of waiting, you spend some time on platform or waiting halls. So I think when you have a private party making a railway station, they will create some better furniture, better ambience, some Wi-Fi facility can be there, some televisions can be installed for news channels or sports channels. So the feel of the passenger at the railway station would be very good if PPP sector is running a railway. Compare a railway station with an airport. The basic amenities which you are requiring, for example, clean toilets, they are missing in the railway stations. By and large, if you travel the whole country, you will find very few railway stations where you have very, very clean facilities, including the space where you sit, including the toilets. So when private sector is there, then they have a super specialization again in maintenance, because they do outsource the service part. So again, it is based on super specialization. Railway is managing the railway operations. Some third party person, PPP company, is managing the platforms and the railway stations building, and the services like the food and other things at railway stations can be better managed through an outsourced service company. So there will be a super specialization which can be created like that. So this is how the second part of the question can be answered. And you can give example of some railway station, like recently we have seen some opening of Rani Kamlapati, which was earlier Habibganj station in Bhopal, which was opened by, I guess, our Prime Minister. And it is a world-class railway station made in private sector, PPP sector, through the Bansal Constructions Company and Indian Railways partnership. And this is no less than an airport in the country. So these are some good points which you can add. There are many other points also, like there is a business opportunity for private sector, employment generation can be faster, quickly you can create the infrastructure. Indian Railway has planned to modernize 400 plus railway stations. So they do not have manpower to manage at one time, but you can hire 400 companies from different part of India and give them this business opportunity. So the same work can be done very quickly. All the stations can be parallelly developed in India. All these are the added advantages which you can write in a fifth point or in the conclusion point. So this is how you can do the first question. So I hope you have understood this well. I can move on to the next question now. This is the favorite topic of UPSC. They have quite frequently asked question on inclusive growth. This is the topic. Whenever you are reading the topic, reading the question, find out the topic to which it relates, and please put some marking on the questions that are asked. The question is inclusive growth possible? So this is your question. Is it possible? So in the first part, you have to say, is inclusive growth possible in market economy? This is your question in the first part. Again, a brief introduction can be given about what is inclusive growth or what is market economy. You can just simply start saying that market economy is based on profit motive, and it would be very difficult to ensure inclusive growth, which is generally a feature of socialist economy. This can be your introduction statement, which you can borrow from the question itself. This is given clearly that you want inclusive growth in market economy. So in the books, you have the whole detail about market economy in chapter 1 only. This all is given. And then in chapter 13, we have explained this, chapter 5, I guess, we have explained the whole concept of financial inclusion. But now the point is that we have to short these two topics. So UPSC questions are not straightforward questions. They will never ask you explain the concept of inclusive growth, explain the concept of market economy. They will ask you only for applied questions. So the first part of the question is that you have to agree to this statement or you have to disagree. So first of all, whenever you are giving agreement, you have to give logic, why do you agree? But if you want to say no, then even you need a logic. So first you have to decide that which side you want to go. In subjective answers, you can get marks for both the opinions. Your logic is going to support your marks actually. So I will go with yes instead of going with no, because I want my answers to be hopeful and generally positive in nature. So is inclusive growth possible? In the first sentence, you can say, introduction sentence, that inclusive growth is a common feature or the objective of socialist pattern, but it is possible in market economy if now we can give some conditions to the examiner. The first point is by proper regulation. So if government's rules are very compact, tight and clear, and the implementation is thorough, then it would be easy for the government to collect lot of resources from taxing the rich and then spending that on the poor people. So if you have a proper regulations on the market economy, then the market will be stable, economy will be stable, your economic growth will be high, and then your business can generate more of the GDP which can be taxed. So resources will be available in the market economy in a much better way as you see in the socialist economy. And then you must have a proper redistribution plan. If you have some kind of Kisan Man Dhan Yojana, some kind of subsidies which are rationalized, like I have full faith on direct benefit transfer when it is Aadhaar linked and all the bank accounts are open now. So when the system is in place, then government can do a lot of exercises for the public welfare. So when the money moves from rich to the poor, then this is known as redistribution function. So government should be ready with a redistribution plan under which government should make sure that the rich people are funding the poor people. And if you want more points, then even labor codes can be simplified. If you are a capitalist economy, then there should be some labor laws which support the labor. Like in these days we are talking about gig workers. Now gig worker on one side gives you temporary job, but on the other side, if you are efficient, then you can make more money than salary which you get in a regular job. So that is the advantages of having a market economy or gig economy. So if you have proper labor codes, there is a minimum wages act, there is a minimum benefit to the workers, then capitalist can give more money to the workers if they are very efficient and they contribute to the profits of the company. So in this sense, it would be a wonderful approach which can fund your requirements for the labor. So my first part of the question is inclusive growth possible? So you can say yes, provided we are having these type of support system. There can be again many other points, but if I take you back to the ancient time in India, we were not having any central government in the past, but Indians were doing very good. Our economy is running for almost 5,000 years. And the whole system was decentralized. Lot of people were working in every village, every corner of the country. They were producing so many goods and services, and we were export driven economy. That's why India was Sone ki Chidiya. So all that stuff showed that we were very inclusive in growth in the past. So that same model of decentralization you can introduce in the planning and execution of the government programs. Moving on to the second part of the question, it says state the significance of financial inclusion. So now this question is a totally different question because it is focused on economic growth. It is not focusing on inclusive growth. So the pattern has to change. In the second part, you don't have to write anything about inclusive growth. You have to write about the economic growth. And now we are talking about financial inclusion. Okay, so let's move on. In the second part, again, you have to mark these points. The key word is significance. And significance of what? So in the second part of the question, you have to write significance of financial inclusion in economic growth. If you give a title to your paragraphs, then they carry extra attention. And moreover, it will ensure that you are giving a complete answer. So that is why I always start with the title. So heading is significance of financial inclusion in economic growth, and I will not use abbreviations in the examination. That is a formal setup. So I will be always very formal in my opinion. So now, what is financial inclusion? Financial inclusion is providing basic financial services to everyone in the economy. For example, people should have access to a bank account. They should have access to insurance. They should have access to some kind of investments. When they have their surplus, they should be able to put that surplus in a system, and then other financial services which people expect, like pension or anything. So this is what is financial inclusion. So now, point by point, you can discuss that when there is a bank account for everyone, then most of the savings will come into economy. So the formal saving of the country will improve. And if you have done Herod-Dumar model in planning, we used it for the first 5-year plan. That Herod-Dumar model says that the growth of any country is dependent upon saving rate and capital output ratio. This is a formula which is mentioned there. So if your saving rate improves, it would be a wonderful return in the growth rate of the country. So when more bank accounts are opened, you will have more resources for the country, and it would be good for the resource mobilization of the economy. So this is one major thing. Second thing, when people are having kind of access to financial services, like I'm saying insurance and pension, then it would improve their economic participation in the country, and ultimately human development index or human development per se will be better. Third point, that ultimately those money saved is going to be funded for producers. All the money that you collect, like India has opened almost 47 crore accounts in the financial inclusion drive that has happened recently. So in these accounts, if a lot of people are investing money for interest's sake, this money is ultimately going to banks for further lending, and this money is going to producers, different sectors of India, and it can be converted into more and more funds. So this will improve the economic growth rate of the country for sure. Fourth point, in the other you can write that when the financial inclusion increases and people have access to banking services, then lending part will also improve. With financial inclusion, farmers can get better loans. Agriculture sector will improve. MSME sector can take loans. So if there is a bank service for everybody, then even small businessmen will take small loans or big loans, medium term, short term loans, long term loans to start their business. So employment and production in these sectors will also improve. So in the second part of the question, you can write these points. So moving back, the first part of the question was, is inclusive possible? I said yes, it is possible. How? I explained with logic. By giving proper redistribution system, by improving on taxation system, etc. And in the second part of the question, where we have to connect the financial inclusion with the economic growth, I have taken some points from different areas. So this is the second question. I hope you have understood this. Now moving on to the next one. Third question that we have to discuss is, what are the major challenges of PDS? It's a very traditional type of question and very commonly asked in earlier examination also. Government has tried to improve on the public distribution system, and you all have seen probably the ration shops which have existed in our society for long. Government has improved on the targeting of the rationing also, but and this fortunately is mentioned in our book in a much detailed manner. You can take some data from the books also, whatever are provided from the institute, and here I can give you some ideas. So here the question is not on PDS. Like again, most of the students will start with the defining of the word PDS. I have a different way of answering the question. I don't take this as the keyword, I take this as the keyword. Okay, and if I want to give introduction, it should be just a single sentence with minimum words. So PDS is blah blah blah, whatever you want to write, and it has the following challenges, and following are the challenges, or following are the important challenges. So this way you should start. The first line should be landing on the challenge word. That should be very important, and don't exaggerate the term PDS. It's not required in this question. Now what are the challenges? First challenge, the biggest challenge in PDS is the targeting. We have inclusion errors and we have exclusion errors. These are two very important areas. Who should be included in the PDS mechanism, like who is entitled to PDS, is one part, because there are a lot of people who are not included in the PDS system. They are very poor, they are BPL people, they are living in remote areas. And second thing is, there are a lot of rich people, middle income people, who must be excluded. So both these points you have to see. There are errors in inclusion, there are errors in exclusion. So the first challenge is that to whom you have to give the free ration. This point is very important. So for this, now government has the whole digitalization going on. So with the Digital India campaigning, government can collect a lot of statistics and do some filtering of the targeted group. Second thing is, there is a huge corruption or leakage in the PDS system. So government is sending some good quality grains, but ultimately those are changed with the corporate sector or with the private sector, and ultimately what people are getting is low quality grain. This is another big challenge. Third big challenge is that PDS takes care of the food but not of nutrition. So government has to ensure that whatever we are giving in PDS should be very nutritious. Nutrition should be a part and parcel of the whole package. Is it okay? And in the PDS, if you go to the remote areas, there are a lot of problems at the remote level. In the weight and measures, like if somebody is getting a 5 kilo bag of ration, then poor people do not have any measuring device. So what we have seen is that in the system, 100% quantity is not given to poor people. From every bag, they take some part out and they use some false measuring instruments. This is another big problem of the PDS. As I have told you, there are so many problems in every chapter, every topic, but you have to choose the best 4 or best 5 I think 4 is a good number for any question. Now, the second part of the question is, how can it be made effective? So, two words are here, effective, and second is transparent. So, in the second part of the question, you have to explain how. So, first for effectiveness and the other for transparency. These are the two paragraphs again you have to write. So, few points or one good paragraph you can write here, one big paragraph you can cover up all the points. So, do you think that we can do better with the digitalization of the whole system? So now government has improved on the rationing card. It's a one nation, one ration card system that they have introduced. So digital records are there. So it will improve the targeting and the transparency in the system, because all the records will be computerized and things will be visible to anybody who has access to that particular thing. So this is one part which will improve the transparency, that is digitalization or use of technology. We can use technology everywhere. Like for proper quantity that must go, we can have some tagging system. With every bag you can do tagging. There can be some sealing system that can be followed. So I think you can read more about the Chhattisgarh model and the Tamil Nadu models, because there are some states of India who have done good reforms in the PDS mechanism. So they have painted their ration card trucks in the yellow color. They have put some big locks to their transporting vehicles, and they have tried to give licenses to the self-help groups. So at local level, it is very difficult to cheat. But if ration shop is outsourced to someone, then cheating is quite high. So if you give this target to a local group or self-help group, or you can involve the local people in this system, then things can be quite nice. You can take electronic measures to them, electronic weighing scales, electronic measures we can be giving to every shop. You can give option of opting out to people who are rich or middle income people. They can opt out, so proper targeting can be done. Government can start a drive to include the right type of people, so there can be a relisting of the opportunities given to the people. So these are some points which are going to make this whole system effective. The basic point is that you have to reverse all these challenges. These are the problems. You do the reverse and your problems get solved. So this was probably the easiest question in the examination, and quite a number of times it was asked earlier. And I hope you have enjoyed this particular point. Fortunately, paper was easy this year. Although it is always difficult for those who are writing. So moving on, the next question again is a direct question. Fortunate. Elaborate the scope. So first point is scope and second point is significance. In case you are not good with some particular word, you don't get a feel of that word, I suggest you to read the Hindi version of the paper also. So same question, if you read in Hindi, you may have some better feeling. So now we are talking about food processing industry. Again, in the Drishti books, you have a complete detailing of food processing industries, types of industries. Scope is already explained here. So there is a direct title here. It is written Scope of Food Processing Industries in India. Very clear title. So I mention you this particular page. This is 348 in our book. So you can go through this page for detail, and it's quite nicely explained in the content. And fortunately, in the next page 349, you have a direct title which is Significance of Food Processing Industry. So the whole answer is given in the two pages 348 and 349. So let me explain these points to you, because these are quite small points They may not be visible to you if you watch this on mobile phone. Probably in laptop you can get a better view. So what we have said is that there is increasing demand of processed food. See, the working class is increasing, the nuclear families are increasing in India. So there is a demand now for processed food, because earlier, there was a division of work in the family. We have our mothers and we have our family members who cook food for us. And now, everybody is working, so it is difficult for the women to manage all that stuff if they have jobs. So there is increasing demand for the processed food in India, and this culture has come from Western world, where there is already a huge portion of food processing industry working. So this is one most important area. Second is that India has huge scope because we are a agriculture pradhan country. In the past, the basic vocation of people was agriculture. Today also agriculture sector employs the largest workforce. So if you go to the villages and the remote areas, huge production of food grains and other vegetables and fruits you will find, but there is no proper marketing of those things. So generally they consume it then and there, and there is no value addition activity that is going on. So what you can do is, because you have huge inputs here, you can create a lot of processed food. So instead of selling oranges where you get just for one season, you can convert into orange pulp and make some orange drinks that can be available in the country for 6 to 7 months, particularly in the summer season. So a lot of scope you can increase if you move on to different remote areas and start uh, food processing industries. Then there is a huge human resource also that is available. There is global demand that is available. So urbanization is changing the patterns in the even rural areas now. So these are some sectors, these are some factors which increase the scope of the food processing industry in India. The second part of the question is again very straightforward. What is the significance? So there is a huge unemployment in India. So food processing industry can give jobs. This is one big thing, employment. And most of the agriculture laborers who are getting some 200 to 300 rupees per day, they can upskill themselves in food processing industries. They can increase their remuneration also. This is one big thing that we can do. Second thing is that food processing industry can add value to the GVA, that is gross value added. So if you sell potatoes for 20 rupees a kilo, then only 20 is added to the GDP of the country. But if you make potato chips, then the price is 300 rupees a kilo. So the value of GVA and the GDP ultimately, they also go up. So India's national income can grow, India's per capita income can grow if food processing industry, improves the level of product. Is it okay? And because we are processing the food through mechanical means or chemical means, generally the life of perishable item is increased. So the availability will improve for more number of months, and that will control the inflation also. In last 2 years, we have seen food inflation, edible oils inflation, fruits and vegetables becoming very costly. So when we have a refined food processing industry in the economy, then inflation and supply chain management would be much better. So these are some areas where food processing industry can be very significant in the role. So we have mentioned here job creation, agriculture sector and nutrition. Nutrition I've already explained in the scope. So I hope you understood this answer as well. Moving on to the next one. In the next question, we are discussing about the life expectancy and the related health challenges. So here the question is not on this, the question is on health challenges. So the first section India has a life expectancy of almost 70 years now. Earlier, this was almost 54 years. So, when this part has increased, what type of challenges you have? This is the first part of the question. Second part of the question, what are those challenges, and this is a duplication, and what steps need to be taken to meet them? Okay. So you have to write the solutions also. What steps need to be taken to meet them? So the first part you have to write the challenges, and the second part you have to write the solutions. A brief is given in the Drishti website about healthcare industry and the challenges, but this is quite limited in the elaboration, and we need to have some more points here. So let me give you some points. So first of all, what you have to do is that the first challenge is preventive health. When the person has crossed the age 50 or 60, then lot of challenges, health challenges are going to be faced, and longevity is one part and the quality of life is another part which has to be maintained. So from the age 60, suppose I say, if I have to live up to 75 years, then I need more health support that is of preventive nature, so that I can prevent any types of serious disorders. I should not be dependent on anybody. So this is first challenge, that how preventive health care can be improved in the economy. Now solution side, I can give you side by side, we can plan. Ayush Mantralaya has done a vital role in prevention of corona, because the allopathic system, the homeopathic system, the Ayurvedic system, they all work together in corona period, and some prevention was better done with the kadhas that were popularized by the Ayush ministry. So preventing health care, prevention wala jo preventive models, that can be promoted by Ayush, and we can introduce health education in the school and college curriculums at a bigger level. So let health education be a subject everywhere, and a small paper has to be cleared after every course, so people will be more worried about their health. Second thing is that you have to give them some work, not for money if somebody has retired, but for keeping the person occupied in some creative thing. If there is no work opportunity, then it's a big challenge for any person who has retired. It will lead to some health challenges ultimately. So this is another thing that you have to give. Is that okay? So now what we can do is, as a solution, that we can promote digital economy, because there are a lot of work from home options which people can take. They can train others because of their experience. They can provide personalized coachings in the areas where they are strong. Third challenge is the psychological well-being, which is a part of the gross national happiness. Generally, after a age, person feels neglected, because everybody who are the young people of the family, they are busy in their work, and the person has retired, so he or she has no friends, he or she has no family members to sit. So there are a lot of psychological issues that arise, and this is I think the biggest challenge. When the life expectancy increases, then from the age 60, if a person lives up to 90 years, passing those 30 years is going to be very difficult. It will be really a trouble for people like who are aged and who have no work to do, and they are living alone or with a very small family. So here what we can do is, then we can improve socialization. Government can announce a lot of socializing schemes. Some groups can be formed And this also is very good when you are using technology. We can improve on the tech solutions. Like Facebook has changed our lives. So this social networking can improve in the lives of the. And what I can suggest you is that there can be a re-recruitment plan which can be followed. Like in some of the jobs, there is always a vacancy. On one side, we have a lot of unemployment, but there are a lot of other areas, like in many states, you will find that they don't have school teachers. So what government can do is that government can take help of those retired teachers who are aged, but who can spend 1 or 2 years. Volunteers can also be asked at that age, who can come without money and with some small remuneration also, or some services of transportation can be provided to them and they can participate. So this is how you can handle this question. It's a wonderful question addressing a very big problem of Indian society, which is old age. So 2 parts of the questions were there and we have discussed both the parts. Moving on to the next question, we have economic growth in recent past has been led by increase in labor activity. There is no question in this. This is just a context line, a statement. So don't find question in every line. Here is the question that you have to explain it. Otherwise, this was not a question. So first is that I have to explain this line, and the second is that I have to suggest a growth pattern that can create more jobs, and that too without compromising labor productivity. So this is something very tricky, and you have seen very little on these areas in the textbooks of general Indian economy. But if you take the hint, so many times you have seen this issue that India's growth has been a jobless growth. So what does it mean? On one side, the GDP is rising, but on the other side, employment is not rising. How is it possible? You have to connect the question to the right topic first, actually. Then you can answer it very well. Sometimes students do not plan it. So I told you in the beginning that it is worth planning. Before writing the answer, must plan. Connect it to the right source. So try to see that this question has been asked twice before in the examinations. India's growth has been a jobless growth. This is the same question asked in a different way. When your growth is jobless, it means that GDP is increasing and same number of people are producing that GDP. It means their productivity is increasing, their activity is increasing, their number is not increasing, but their activity is increasing, they are putting up more of the work. Are you getting my point or not? So same question asked in a different manner. So what you have to explain is this. Number one, that growth in India has been jobless, which means that we are not having more people to work, we are taking more work from the same people. And in COVID time also you have seen work from home opportunity was another way by taking more work from a person. You get my point or not? When you are having to go to office, 1 hour you spend going, 1 hour you spend coming, there is a lot of exertion that you face. But when you are doing your work in the home, you have a freedom, you can give some time to your family also. So you have seen that people were, wearing Bermudas, but on the top they were wearing some ties and they were sitting on the laptops, logging in, logging out at time. So productivity at this part of time also was quite high because people were enjoying their work, they were doing it from home, they were giving, time to family, and they were balancing their social responsibility. So this is another reason. Moreover, the IT sector and the digital part of Indian economy is also improving. A lot of people have started using technology in last 5 years. So because of this, similar effect that we have seen in the mechanization. You know about mechanization of agriculture and in the small industries. Lot of people are doing the same work with machines. So when technology has improved, the productivity has also improved. Although a lot has to be done in the agriculture sector, but our industrial sector, our service sector is depending more on technology, and because of technology also the productivity is increasing. So I am in favor of best 4 points. For the first part, I have given you 4 points. Now for the second part, suggest the growth pattern. Now, what pattern you can follow in future? First of all, you can follow the Gandhian approach to economic development. Gandhiji was in favor of creating small industries, MSMEs, self-employment. He was interested in rural development of the country. So if you want to create more jobs, actually those jobs can be created in the small enterprises of India if you promote these industries. To support the big industries, small industries can play a vital role. There is no doubt about it. I hope this is clear to all of you. The skilling has to go up in India. So we have a Skill India program. With better skilling and incorporating the skilling in the new education policy, this can be done. So if you improve on these sectors, first of all, more institutions, more ITIs, more IITs will mean more of the education sector growing. So there will be a GDP growth because of promoting this. You getting my point? If you open more colleges, provide more services, educational services, even that will be contributing to the GDP. And moreover, in the future time, it will create a lot of productive jobs. Third is that you can lead in exports. Export is another sector which needs improvement. What India can do is that they can promote the exports of textiles, footwear, and other all sectors where India was doing good in the earlier time, and we lost to China or Bangladesh for some reasons. This can be another very important area where huge number of jobs can be created and productivity will not be compromised. Rather, with better skills, people will be more productive. And last thing I would like to add is using technology. This can be a common answer, a common point in many answers. By using better and better technology for agriculture sector, for our industries, we can create, more units by giving less burden to the workers. So when the profit will increase, the labor productivity and the remuneration both will increase phenomenally. Okay, moving on to the next question. So here, the question is here in the word bottleneck. And this question relates to a topic which is marketing of agriculture products. So whenever you are doing any supply chain, there are 3 areas in the chain. One is called midstream activities. Midstream is generally connected to processing of things at the level where you are manufacturing the output. And when you go downstream further, then it is related to selling your product, and when you are selling, you are involving all the logistic machinery such as transport, storage of finished goods, all these activities, packaging, advertising, these are all the downstream activities that you have to do. And in any process, there are upstream activities also. So in the upstream, you have procurement of raw material, procurement of workers, and their management. So whenever you are doing any particular business, this is your business in the middle, and then you are connected to some other business for input, and on the other side you are connected for the output to some other area. So all these three things go hand in hand in any processing of goods. So try to see that in agriculture marketing, the first part is a challenge. Because the companies that are manufacturing fertilizers, the companies that are providing seeds, they are large corporates. Like we have some words like Monsanto, who are providing inputs to the farm sector. So they are very, very formalized, and they are very, very rich big companies. But the farmers who are doing these midstream activities, they are very small people. 86% of Indian farmers are marginal farmers, and around 45-46% of the land is owned by them in India. So most of them are working in the informal sector. So the first bottleneck is the connect between large companies and the small farmers. This is one big problem. We do not have a rugged supply chain which connects these two opposite entities together. I hope you are getting my point. Second point is that these farmers have to sell their products again to commission agents, not directly to customers who are small like you and me. They sell it to the mandis, and there you have commission agents who are very, very rich. So again there is a divide. Farmers are poor. The commission agents are very rich, who are called the artiyas. This is the second big problem that we face. There is a big, communication gap between, status gap between these two levels. The next point, which is again very important, is that India has a lot of agricultural loss. So the storage facilities are lacking, the transportation facilities are lacking, the insurance part is lacking. In the other countries, farming is done commercially. So for everything you have a support system. But in India, farming is by and large an informal activity. So by giving education to the farmers, by connecting them to the whole system, by formalization of the agriculture sector, these problems can be solved. So these 3 or 4 points you can add. There is a challenge of logistic management. This whole is covered in any topic of supply chain. If you read more about supply chain, you will be clear about these challenges. And if you know about the 3 farm laws that government passed, ultimately they had to roll back because some farmers were protesting against them. Not all the farmers, but some farmers. So the point to note here is that government allowed private sector in farming sector. So if you have huge equity coming up by big companies of India, they will support the farmers for contract farming activities, for providing them seeds. So they can act as a layer between those input giving companies and those who are taking output from the farmers. So there can be some private sector support which can create another layer for the help of the farmers. Although it will have some disadvantages also, but the law was that we should allow a lot of investments to come in the farming sector to improve the processing and the transportation and the storage part of the agriculture sector. So these are the areas. Although in this question you are not supposed to write the solution, the question is only on bottlenecks. So in the last paragraph, in the way forward or in the conclusion paragraph, you can give a small hint on some remedies just in a paragraph form, and there is no need to go to detail. Again, a good question on agriculture sector. As I told you that agriculture is most important chapter for examination. You have to prepare it very thoroughly. Coming on, fortunately, we have a big article on integrated farming system in the Drishti exercises that we have given to student. So this was given as a question in the mains practice, question number 1771, and coincidentally the same thing came. Absolutely same question, word to word. The same question was given for practice. So we have already given this to you. It's available on the application also, but in brief I can discuss it. First of all, what is integrated farming system? So in integrated farming system, what you do is that you don't just do one part of the farming, you take care of all the related activities which are in the periphery of the agriculture sector. For example, animal husbandry you can add. Within the farm, you have a lot of residue. You have issue of stubble burning also in the farms. So when farmers have animals, and in the past, if you go to ancient society of India, you have seen, people who were farmers, they were all managing the animals also. So they had a lot of cattle and all other animals. And the feed that they get as a residue can be given to the animals. So this is one part. And the animals who have their excreta for the fertilizers of the farm are equally important for them. So it is a give and take. So it's a cyclical economy. So animals are supported by the weeds, etc. And then, the fields are supported by the animal waste that you get. It's a natural organic, fertilizer. And moreover, you can do other things also. Integrated farming does not just mean that you have to do farming. You can do any exercise which can be within the domain of that. So whatever is the wastage, whatever is the output of one part of your agriculture can become input for the other part. So nothing will be wasted. So first paragraph you can define integrated farming, and now the second part is how it is helpful. So this is the question, and the focus is again on the small farmers. So first of all, we have a focus on doubling farmers' income. Indian government wanted the farmers' income to be doubled in 5 years. So this particular technique of farming can increase the income of the farmers. This is one very, very important point that you can start with. Second is that seasonality is another issue. When there is off season for agriculture, farmers do not have any source of income, but here you are doing multiple activities. So seasonality will not be a constraint for the farmers. Waste is another area. As I told you, there is a problem of stubble burning, and in Punjab and Haryana, we have seen a lot of stubble burning activities going on which pollute the whole environment. So this is another important domain which can work for this. Am I right? Irrigation also is another area on which the farmers are dependent. So when farmers are dependent on just monsoons, it's a big problem. But when you are creating an integrated setup, then you are less dependent on the monsoon. This is another big area where farmers have problems in the off season and on season management. So ultimately, the integrated farming is going to reduce the risk for the farming, because if you are doing some 7-8 activities in the same farm, then it's not that everything will fail. You are doing couple of exercises, couple of activities, and now when there is a problem in one of the part, you can do coverage from the second part or the third part of the integrated farming technique. It's a wonderful area, and again predictable. We gave students this question to practice, and a very simple question also. You can take up some points from economic survey also, some data can be added, and this way you can write the answer. This is a big skeleton of what we have just discussed. So these are all the questions that were asked in the examination. I hope you have enjoyed the discussion. This was a small briefing of, I don't mean to give you the word by word dictation here, It was just a small briefing of the question paper, and for more details on these content wise, you can see this all is available on our application and in our books also. And please focus whenever you are preparing for examination, please focus based on the weightage. This is another very important thing that we must discuss together with the question paper, that according to the weightage of the topics you need to prepare. As you have seen that inclusive growth is quite frequently asked, just one topic, and it's been asked almost every time except one, 2021, and indirectly it can exist also. This area we have just discussed, 3 questions on the agriculture sector, so they were wonderful. So this is all for this discussion. I hope you have enjoyed this class, and I hope to catch you soon on some other discussion. Thank you so much. God bless you.